Hey Ariel family, it's JP again. Some of you were asking for a follow-up video to help you with some stretching. This video will be stretching and beyond because I'd also like to show you a little bit about the old foam roller. I'm going to focus on your hip flexor and your hamstrings for the purpose of this video. I'm going to talk about three types of stretching: static, dynamic, and PNF stretching. We'll worry about PNF stretching later in the video. But for now, static stretching is when you're holding still for a stretch. A good example of this would be the seated forward fold, where you're leaning forward, stretching your hamstrings for a set amount of time. The dynamic stretch would be something like Cobra, where you're laying on your stomach, alternating your legs back and forth, doing a dynamic stretch of your hip flexors. Essentially, all of our warm-up at Aerial Athletics is the dynamic stretching, where we're going and doing air squats and single leg balance. So let's start with hamstring stretching. We'll start with static stretching, where we're just holding a stretch. This can be done with both feet or single leg. It's important to remember that we have good upright spinal position. If we're curling forward, I'm not so much stretching my hamstring as much as I am the low back, which sometimes you might need to do, but this is intended to be the hamstring stretch. So, good spinal position, leaning forward into the stretch, trying to keep that knee from bending. To help you with your static stretch, you might use a band to lean forward into that stretch. If you don't have a band, it's also okay to use something like a towel to hold that foot there, keeping your legs straight, good spinal position, chest up and forward, and leaning into the stretch. That should feel pretty intense. Now, PNF stretching, peripheral neuromuscular facilitation, is an excellent way to get a good hamstring stretch. So for this, what you would do is lay on your back with your band or towel wrapped around your foot. You're going to lay down. It's okay if this is bent. It can be straight as well. You have your other leg that you're stretching straight up in the air, and what you're going to do is you're going to press lightly into the band. You're contracting your hamstring right now. And then you're going to relax completely. So now my hamstring is relaxed. I'm pulling that band just a little bit further each time. So I'm going to press for about 3 to 5 seconds. And then relax. And you can hold this stretch for another 15 to 20 seconds. When we look at rolling our hamstrings, we can do that with a lot of different items. Sometimes just using a tennis ball will do the trick. So you're going to place that there on your hamstring, and you can lift your body up off the ground so that you get a more intense roll. You're going to go back and forth on that tennis ball. I also recommend going side to side, doing a little bit of cross friction massage on that tendon and on that muscle belly. Okay? If you have a foam roller, the same thing can be accomplished. So you can do this with both hamstrings at the same time. You're rolling back and forth on it. To get a more intense roll, you can cross that leg over. Now I've got all of my weight on the left hamstring. You're rolling back and forth. So once you're going back and forth here for a little bit, now you can also do some of that cross friction where you're going side to side as you roll. You're getting the full length of the muscle going back and forth. The last thing I'm going to show you for your hamstring is what's called muscle flossing. At the gym, I like to use a weight bar and the weight rack. I like to put it right about my hip length. What you would do is you'd rest your hamstring right on that bar in the standing position. At home, I have to get a little creative, so what we're using is 2 chairs and a hockey stick. So I'm going to kneel in position. I'm going to place that troublesome part of my hamstring, the part where I'm really feeling it tight. I'm going to place that right on the hockey stick, and I'm using about 30% of my body weight. Then what I'm going to do is flex and extend my knee. Right now, my hamstring is gliding along that hockey stick, getting a good stretch and roll. This is pretty intense, and it's not for everybody. Now moving on to hip flexor stretches. The most effective stretch, I think, is the kneeling lunge stretch. I like to put my knee on a padded, something padded. You can roll up a towel, that would be fine too. The leg that I'm stretching is the kneeling leg. Right now I have even weight on this foot and this knee, 50-50. When you are going to advance into this stretch, you're just gonna push your pelvis forward, not your belly button. This would be belly button forward. There's an arch in my back. I'm not targeting my hip flexor. This would be pelvis forward. I'm not going to be able to go as far, but I feel that in my hip flexor a lot more. Now, one way to make this a little bit more intense is with a band. Again, at the gym, you can use that on the weight rack. But here at my home, I'm going to use this bike. I recommend using something that's at least your body weight. So what I'm going to do is on the same leg that I'm stretching, I'm going to put my leg in this. And I'm putting that band right up to my gluteal fold there, where your butt cheek is, okay? And I'm doing the exact same position that I was doing. But what this is doing is giving me a little extra pull forward from the correct location. So this is not pulling me forward at that belly button, it's pulling me forward at the femur, this long bone here. So it can make it a little bit more intense. Feels really good. Now, when you're foam rolling, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can be directly in the center of the foam roller, and you can lean off to one side, putting a little bit of weight on that hip flexor. So now I'm doing my right side, left side. Another way to do this, where you can include the flossing like I mentioned, is to go off to one side of the foam roller. So I'm going to do flossing of my left hip flexor. I'm going to place that foam roller right there at the edge, right where my hip flexor runs from my spine to the front of my leg. So now my hip flexor is pinned directly against the foam roller. I'm going to relax my upper body a little bit. I'm letting my entire body sink down into that foam roller. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually straighten my left leg. So by doing this, I'm stretching that hip flexor out and relaxing it at the same time. That's allowing that hip flexor to glide along the foam roller the same way that the hamstring did on that hockey stick. All right, that's what I have for you for now. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you all again soon.